Also, the fact the name Jesus, we say the name Jesus in English, right? But that's actually a transliteration of the Greek. What does the Greek mean? What is the Greek meaning? Or if we actually were to translate the Greek Jesus into the English name, what would it really be?
We need to start at the beginning, don't we? We've got Joshua, who's the son of Joseph, who is Yehoshua. And over many centuries, it becomes Aramaized into Yeshua. And it continues with the same meaning, which means Jehovah saves, Yehoshua, Jehovah saves, Yeshua. And then this is the name that Jesus receives, Yeshua. But it comes to us through Greek. The Greeks can't say sh, so they say Yesu, and then they always put an S on the ends of the names, so it becomes Jesus, and this comes to us as Jesus, but of course his name in Hebrew Aramaic is Yeshua.
Which is Joshua.
Joshua. In other words, the Greek can be read as Joshua also, and we have that proof from Hebrews.
Of course.
Yes.
Joshua, the son of Joseph, the Messiah.
Yeah. So we can say Joshua and not only Yeshua.
We can say Joshua. Yeah.
By the way, when I share the gospel with Israelis, they sometimes say Yehoshua, and say yes, you can call them Yehoshua, Joshua.
Yeah. And we find the same thing in chapter 6, verse 42. The crowds are all puzzling and saying, "Who is this man?" And they say, "Is this not Yeshua ben Yosef, whose father and mother we know? How can he say, 'I came down from heaven'?" But this is exactly what is promised in Genesis 49:24, that the one who is promised to Joseph, the shepherd rock promised to Joseph, is going to come from Shaddai. Misham ro'eh eben Israel, from Shaddai. So he can say, this Joshua, son of Joseph, can say, "I've come down from heaven."
So let me just stop you a second, because, I mean, obviously, most of us, I think 99% of us have, when we read Jesus, the son of Joseph, we automatically assume that it's talking about Mary's husband, Miriam's husband, Joseph. You're actually saying that this is actually used as a title.
This is a double entendre, isn't it?
A double entendre, right? A double meaning. So his earthly father is Joseph, but the fact that John is using it is he's trying to actually signal to his audience?
I think so.
Who is his audience?
I think John's audience are Galileans.
Interesting.
There's a lot of theories. Some think his audience are Judeans. Some people think his audience are Samaritans. But I think his audience is Galileans.
And you'd also mentioned before the podcast that there was actually even some tensions between the Galileans and the Judeans about their calendars, right?
Oh, yeah, there were a lot of differences between the Galileans and the Judeans. We mustn't go and read the New Testament with the idea that Galileans were simply Jews. They were not.
Jews in the sense of Judeans.
Yeah, they were not Judeans. They were mostly of Ephraimite descent. They were mostly from the tribes of Joseph. Although the Assyrians had carried them into captivity, Josiah then brought many of them back and settled them in the Galilee. And afterwards, the Maccabees brought more back and settled them in the Galilee. So most of the people in the Galilee had some kind of allegiance to the tribes of Joseph. They had very mixed feelings about the Jerusalem establishment. They didn't follow the Jerusalem feasts. They didn't follow, for instance, the Feast of Purim. We can see this probably in John chapter 5, isn't it? Where there's a feast of the Jews. And the implication is that Jesus is there, but they're not going to that feast. There's a feast of the Yehudim, the Judeans, but Jesus and his disciples are doing something else. And this is probably Purim. There are big calendar differences. Explains why in John, Jesus dies on the day of the sacrifice of the Passover lamb, but in the synoptics, he dies on the day before.
So
there's two different calendars.